Hello. Thank you for joining me at the Perennial Omnist Podcast. I am your host, Katie, coming to you live today, January 26th, Monday, with a Golden Fig Gardens Week Ahead Lifescape forecast. Monday is a day symbolic of the moon being the ultimate reflection of light in the skies, containing no inner light of itself, but reflecting the solar light as it moves through different phases of light, shadow, and darkness. We are 1 week away from the full moon, which will be happening next Monday on February 1st, which also coincides this year with Imbolc. Imbolc was a Catholicized holiday known as Candlemas within the church, where the congregation was invited to gather all of last year's old burnt candles to collect the wax and bring it into the sacred cathedrals or temple spaces in order to be remelted down communally and then re-poured into new candles to bring light and wishes and prayers and offerings into the new year moving ahead. Imbolc has to do with gestation in the belly and the quickening of time. So this is often an energetic time of year when we can feel things shifting and changing. However, that transformation is not yet clearly in appearance on the outside in the external world. So this is in Native American calendar. The full sap moon is coming up in a week from now. Now, in the Northeast maple making region of our country, this is the time of year when the trees still appear to be in their dormant state. However, due to the lengthening of days, the shifting of the rays of solar light and how they are hitting, there is an inner awakening happening. And due to this inner awakening, the trees are preparing for the next cycle of growth, rebirth, resurrection. And in doing so, they are tapping down into the sugars that have been stored in their roots, and they're beginning to pull that energy up in preparation to send it out up into the branches to sprout those new buds of green foliage that we all have to look forward in the spring and summer months ahead. So as this quickening of inner energy, you can think of the sap of a tree, similar to our own blood, right? It carries the water, it carries the sugars, it carries the energy which fuels the tree to continue on with life. And so this is the time of year when the Native Americans would tap the maple trees and gather the sap. And then the sap is often boiled down. It can be cooked down into the most delicious breakfast treat that many of us love, maple syrup. It can even continue to be rendered down into its crystalline and more solidified form. I would like to just really quickly say that the practice of maple gathering and the groves of maple trees that were often family groves that were passed on from one generation to another. This was very much of a matrilineal practice. And so there was also maple huts that were built specifically for the women who would gather at this time of year, and they were the keepers of the flame. You want to be sure, in order not to burn your maple, that you are keeping it over somewhat of a steady heat, that it is constantly being stirred. And so this sort of invokes the image that we have of goddesses, witches, crones, stirring the cauldron over the fire. Imbolc in Gaelic tradition is a calendar wheel holiday that is associated with Brigid, Brigad. She can also be equated to the goddess Vespa, and these are Hespia. These are our ancient goddesses of the hearth, tenders of the fire, triple goddess energy. And so Some of the activities that you can be doing with your children, with your family, with yourself as a personal practice as we move forward into this next week of the full moon and the Imbolc is doing some of these ancient practices. I was in doing some of my journaling this morning. I was taking some notes and I was thinking of how this is in many ways, while we are not at Oestra or Easter yet, this is the calendar wheel holiday that is, so to say, the herald of that, the one that comes just before and prepares us for that. And so I foresee and feel an energy of resurrection, which is a rebirth. And once again, Imbolc in gestation, it's like you are preparing for birth, right? Maybe the labor has not yet begun. The actual birthing process isn't there, but like you're in the third trimester and you're preparing for what you in your mind, inside, in your imagination, you are beginning to go there. You are beginning to prepare yourself for what is next to come. And so on that note, in order for there to be any sort of a birth or resurrection, that requires a death of the old. If we are mothers who are preparing to birth for the first time, then we are, in essence, laying our maiden to rest, right? She is the maiden self, will in many ways die as you enter motherhood. And that can be both painful, it can feel like a loss of self, a loss of control. And yet, as we know, it is also the most beautiful and enriching and life-changing evolution and opportunity to let go of the old and move into the new. So, gathering of old candles and surrendering the old, allowing it to melt down. We oftentimes speak of rendering fat. And I think of wax is very much of a fatty or an oily substance. And so that is also rendering is also an application that could be used in the concept of the maple making, right? You are rendering down the maple. Oftentimes we think of maple syrup. Well, it's been cooked down into a syrup. It comes out of the tree as a perfectly clear water. So think of coconut water. However, we all know how sweet coconut water is, even though it's clear. It appears to look just like water. It is the blood of the coconut tree, and therefore it contains all of the sugars and the life potential electrolytes of that tree. And so maple is a similar process. There's some beautiful books that you can read with your children at this time about sugaring and mapling and these traditions, and I will be sharing more of those. So I just want to encourage you that now is the time to be gathering the old and preparing it into something new. Another very much seasonal activity for this time of year is gathering of last year's seeds. So whatever seeds you have saved, you have stored and kept safe over the winter, now is the time to get those seeds and get ready to plant seeds for the new season. So this is exactly why we took our quick getaway to the coast last weekend, knowing that this upcoming weekend will be our seed starting time. And again, similar to maidenhood, the selkie self who can run away and jump and play and frolic in the ocean whenever you feel like, versus the grounded farmer, tender, nurturer, self of motherhood. Once you commit to starting your seeds, you're kind of grounded down. They are now dependent upon you. They need to be watered. And seeds, especially as they are germinating and first growing, certain types of seeds are going to need an additional input of heat depending on where you live. So where we are here in the Pacific Northwest, we still have the potential of frost for the next few months. So I can't just go out and, sow my corn seeds and sow my bean seeds and my squash seeds, et cetera, because if those seeds did germinate and sprout outdoors, the frost would come and kill them immediately. So it is the time of year to be possibly starting seeds indoors, Maybe you have a greenhouse, maybe you utilize heating mats or heating lamps, but there is the need for additional layers of protection and input for these seeds. Also, as seeds germinate, they need to be watered consistently, not overwatered, or you can also kill the seed by overwatering it. Some seeds are going to need more consistent watering than others. And so once you start planting seeds, you're kind of committing yourself to something. You are saying that in starting these seeds, you are not just gonna sow them out there and, oh, best of luck. Or maybe you are. There's many different ways of doing it. But our way of doing it, and my suggestion that I'm giving here as a Lifescape and gardening consultant, is that you're committing yourself to a year ahead of being a gardener. You are committing yourself to taking these new little in capsules of an incredible amount of cosmic knowledge and life and wisdom, knowing that they have such a gift to give you in return if they are nurtured and nourished up to their full maturity, in which they turn into a fruit and provide all of that sweetness in the season of harvest that is on the opposite side of the calendar wheel. So we're up here right now, still in the purple of Aquarius. And as you can see, Imbolc is exactly opposite of Lammas. Now, Lammas is the traditional holiday of the harvesting of the first grains, so the recollecting of the first seeds. And now is the opposite time on the calendar wheel, where we are going to be bringing those seeds and we are going to be offering them back into the earth. This all has to do with the interweaving cross of time. So one of the activities that is fun to do also at this time of year is to make cross buns with the children, talk about the seasons of the year and how they affect us all on earth, how dependent we are upon these seasons, and also how we live in a sense of opposition and duality, but yet there's a wholeness that connects us in that. So while we here in the Northern Hemisphere honor February 1st as Imbolc and are preparing to sow our seeds, if you are in the Southern Hemisphere, then you are obviously experiencing the opposite, and this is a time of gathering seeds and preparing to go indoors for the winter, where us in the Northern Hemisphere who have been indoors, we're getting ready to go back out. So before I jump ahead to Friday, which is a very exciting day, and going to loop back to all this seed talk, I just want to real quick stop off on Wednesday, midweek. Wednesday is the miércoles in Spanish. It is the day of the messenger. I intend on, hopefully, if all goes well, launching the KYBU La Pop radio show, which will be airing every Wednesday. I'm still learning a lot about the technological space of starting radio show, so I am diligently plugging away to make that dream come true. But this Wednesday, there is some amazing cosmic stuff happening that has to do with some alignments between the Sun, Medusa, Vesta, and Shiva. And this is all a world of astrology that I'm very much a student in. I have been taking the time to listen and learn from some other much more knowledgeable astrologers out there. So I would like to give a personal shout out of thanks to Renee Sills at Embodied Astrology. She is a beautiful and very educated and wise and calm and peaceful astrologer who will take you on some wonderful somatic journeys of how to work with the different energies that are happening as above, so below, as within, so without. Another very exciting and passionate astrologer that I also enjoy listening to is Sabrina Lynn at Rewilding. And I actually just signed up for her Rewilding Challenge, which is going to be happening as we move into the lunar year of the fire horse on February 17th, which I have been talking about. I'm very excited for. But in this year of the snake, doing a somatic space workshop with my dear friend Kristen, who locally offers the Talma Pais practice. It was around this time last year that in her workshop, working with the energy of the snake, I was really visited, I would say, very strongly by the image of Medusa, and that my inner desire to commune with and get to know more about that goddess was what really inspired me to dreadlock my hair and go on this whole dreadlock journey. So I am going to be coming back, possibly even live on Instagram or something like that, maybe Facebook, on Wednesday, to share with you a little bit more about my Medusa journey. And I was very excited to see that there is going to be some cosmological alignment with this, because Medusa is going to be at 9 degrees Aquarius. The sun will also be at 9 degrees Aquarius. Vesta will be at 8 degrees Aquarius, and Shiva will be at 10 degrees Aquarius. So, a lot of these goddess energies are energies that are popping up in a lot of us all around the world. And so I am excited to delve into that. We have been really getting into more of our mythological studies. We did the Odyssey over the holiday season on audiobook, and Jasper has some really awesome and exciting insights that he will also be sharing with you on Wednesday's video release about the Medusa and Pegasus story. So if you are interested, continue to follow us. Please subscribe, and I hope that you join us on Wednesday as we dive into that. Now, back to the gardening Lifescape forecast. As I said, as we move into Imbolc, Imbolc is a time to plant seeds, and we have a perfectly, beautifully aligned lunar gardening day coming up on Friday and into Saturday. So Friday, the 30th, the moon will be in its Hawaiian phase of Hua. Hua specifically means fruit, egg, and references seed. So the fruit, the hua, being the seed-bearing part. This is forecasted according to the Hawaiian Mahina lunar planting guides to be a great day for starting any fruit-bearing plants. And the following day after Hua, on Saturday the 30, I'm sorry, I have, oh, come on. Yeah, Saturday the 31st is Akua. And Akua is the Hawaiian word for spirit. These phases of the moon, which are, as we mentioned, just a few days before full moon. So we are in the fullness stage of the moon cycle. These particular Hua and Akua moons, the moon is going to be traveling through Cancer at that time, and Cancer, being a water sign, is also a very beneficial astrological lunar planting sign. I also think of the glyph of Cancer as being, in my imagination, very symbolic of a seed. It looks like a little seed sprouting out some of its first radical energy. And then there's also the like above ground sprouting of the sort of 69 image of Cancer. So I would encourage you all to mark that on your calendars and maybe think about preparing yourself in the week ahead for some ritualistic practices. What seeds do you plan on sowing in this new year? For us, the first seeds that we're going to be starting off with will be some of our longer season nightshades, for example. So I meant to have some little fiery peppers to hold up in my hand, but I don't have them right now. There's a couple days in this week's forecast ahead that astrologers are referring to as spicy. And nightshades are a long season plant. So for us, they are definitely part of the plant family that needs to be started early with heat, with protection, in order to give it a long enough growing cycle that we will be able to harvest fruits in the summer. Sweet peas are probably another one that we're going to be getting started, and possibly some earlier spring brassicas. However, for many of the other things, such as I mentioned earlier, like corn and beans and squash, we'll be waiting some months before we start those. So I think I'm going to wrap it up at that, and I would like to just thank you all for being here with me. Real quick review of some of the different wheels of time that we have going on. This is our homeschool Learning with Luna board behind us. So we have all 30 phases of the Hawaiian moon going from full on the top to new down below. They are painted with glow-in-the-dark paint, and so it's really fun at night. And it is a daily activity we do with the kids, where they come and they'll look at the different moon. We have the Hawaiian names written next to them and whether or not they're good planting days, whether or not they're good fishing days. And so the kids will go outside, look in the sky, be it day or night, try and identify the moon and come in and match it to the name. These are our different months. I've got January up here and February right here. These are the different signs of the zodiac here. This is our rainbow with some of the different languages that we are practicing. This is our weather wheel, which they spin to match to the weather of the day. And then we have the descriptions of that weather in some of the different languages that we are trying to learn. Numbers up here, Ogham Grove right here. As you can see, we are currently in the Rowan time of the Ogham Grove, and we will be moving into Alder after that. This is, again, from Yuri Lyric's book, The Ogham Grove. And what I really like about this is there's both the circular vision of it and then the square. And as you see, there's the different seasons of the year, signs of the zodiac, and the Ogham letter or tree names that are associated. And then finally over there, we have our days of the week wheel and the greater cosmic calendar time of the yugas. So, thanks for being here. Blessed be.